Hello, everyone.
Greetings. We're starting another new chapter in Ray Franz Crisis of Conscience, Chapter 6, Double Standards. This is on page 110. And his double standard is mostly about Malawi and Mexico and policy as applied in the late 1970s. But he starts with a few paragraphs in which he introduces an old Watchtower article, not that old at that time. It was January 15, 1974, and it was about, well, the title is, Can You Be True to God, Yet Hide the Facts? Now, the facts that he is, of course, alluding to have to do with hypocritical policies, double standards on policies at the very same time. But as you can see when we read the magazine article, it's mostly about hiding the facts of history and doctrinal issues from your public. So we'll read it. It's only about a page long, and it will leave a lot of room for meditation and self-examination. Here's what it looks like, and you'll probably remember it because look at the picture at the bottom. Who's at the bottom of the page? Can you identify him? Well, you can.
The man with the broom.
The man with the broom
has a collar.
He has a clergy collar on him. So it's very plain that this is being applied to Christendom, not to yourself. So they start this way. Can you be true to God yet hide the facts? What results when a lie is let go unchallenged? Does not silence help the lie to pass as truth, to have freer sway to influence many, perhaps to their serious harm? What happens when misconduct and immorality are allowed to go unexposed and uncondemned? Is this not like covering over an infection without any effort to cure it and keep it from spreading? When persons are in great danger from a source that they do not suspect or are being misled by those they consider their friends, is it an unkindness to warn them? They may prefer not to believe the warning. They may even resent it. But does that free one from the moral responsibility to give that warning? And then we realize that at the beginning of this book, Ray has been making that point already about his reason for writing Crisis of Conscience, that he's not doing it just to vent, not just doing it as a bitter act of recrimination against an organization that has wronged him.
Criticism can be for correction. It's not always a judgment, a negative thing. It can be a positive thing if you apply it. I mean, they're giving counsel here.
Yeah.
But they're not applying it to themselves.
No, and yet you realize most of Crisis of Conscience and much of In Search of Christian Freedom was dedicated to exposing, if you want to look at it that way, Watchtower history that they themselves are not acknowledging, or at least not acknowledging in its fullness.
Yeah. Desiring change, he was. If you are among those seeking to be faithful to God, the issues these questions raise are vital for you today. Why? Because God's servants in every period of history have had to face up to the challenge these issues present. They have had to expose falsehood and wrongdoing and warn people of dangers and deception, not just in a general way, but in a specific way, in the interest of pure worship. It would have been far easier to keep silent or say only what people wanted to hear. But faithfulness to God and love of neighbor moved them to speak. They realized that better is a revealed reproof than a concealed love. That's Proverbs 27:5. The continuing pattern is the next subheading. Consider the situation in ancient Israel and the example that God's prophets then set. Wrongdoing became rampant in that nation. Dishonesty, violence, immorality, and hypocrisy disgraced the name of God, whom the Israelites claimed to worship. Did the people welcome divine correction? To the contrary, the Bible shows that they said this to God's prophets. Then they're quoting Isaiah 30, verses 9 to 11. You must not see, and to the ones having inspired visions, you must not envision for us any straightforward things. Speak to us smooth things. Enlighten deceptive things. Envision deceptive things. Turn aside from the way. Deviate from the path.
The majority of the religious leaders sought popularity by doing just that, condoning and whitewashing the wrongdoing and violation of God's righteous standards and ways. But God's instructions to his true prophets are exemplified by what he said to the prophet Ezekiel. Now, as regards you, O Son of Man, a watchman is what I have made you to the house of Israel. Now, that's the end of the page. And that's all we need to look at. It's one of the rare occasions when I can agree with everything they said on a page. But the problem, of course, is not what they're saying. It's, are they doing it themselves? And this is 1974 article, so they've got another couple of cover-ups now involving 1975 and 1999 and the expiration of the century and the millennium. A couple more cover-ups to add to the cover-ups they were already guilty of back then.
They're applying this to Christendom, and yet the information that they give about what they would say is wrongdoing and wrong doctrine, where do they get it from? Where do they find all this stuff out? It's generally because Christendom has a history of writing its history, good and bad. It tells you the things they did in different periods of time, both the good and the bad.
Yes, at least since the Reformation. So now over 500 years, Christendom has been forced, if you like, to tell the truth about itself. That's why you know all this stuff. You don't have historians. You don't have people who know the history of Christendom. You have to depend on what those historians from Christendom have told you. Most of them, by the way, are clergymen who've written these histories. So what's the difference then? Well, the capacity for self-criticism is built into Christendom now. Even the Catholic Church, at least since Vatican II, 60 years ago, has been looking at itself and examining whether or not the things that it believes have been consistent with Christian truth. Are you doing that? No, the truth is the Watchtower is clamping down as years go on. They're getting less and less critical and more idolatrous about themselves.
When ex-witnesses come forward and say, you know, what about this or this? You said this and it wasn't true. You've changed your mind about that. The criticism usually is, oh, well, that's old stuff. Like, it doesn't matter. Why does it not matter for you, but it does for everybody else?
It does, for sure.
It does matter. Your roots matter.
It's about your present credibility, yes, but based on your past performance.
You can't make correction if you're not even conscious that you've done something that wasn't good.
Christendom has learned the hard way that self-criticism is better than having the world criticize you. The Watchtower hasn't learned that yet. So who do they brand as apostates? Well, it's the very people rising up, like the prophets that they're talking about here. The prophets who rose in Israel were Israelites. You kick out the ones who are critical of your
They killed their prophets, but you more or less kill them by just stopping them from being able to be heard by anybody.
So when it comes to the big question at the top of the page, should we, ex-witnesses, let Watchtower lies go unchallenged? That's the application of this material to the present situation. Should we, ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, just lie dormant? A lot of us are trying to do that, and PMOs, etc., trying to...
Or should it be exposed?
Should it be exposed? Now, of course, we can't speak for everybody else's conscience, but Franz apparently believes he's got to expose these things. He has a moral responsibility to. He agrees with this article. And the Watchtower doesn't allow prophets, those who come with the express purpose of correcting wrongs in Israel. They don't allow it. So that it's up to so-called apostates to get this job done. What are our links, by the way?
No matter how gracefully you try and say things to the Watchtower, they just shut you down. Okay, the link is a video of Ray's at the beginning of Crisis of Conscience, his intro. So he states his desire to to do what will be good in the long run for Israel, for
Israel.
Jehovah's Witnesses. He wants them to know, and he wants things to change. If they're wrong, they should be changed. And the second one is, it's your writing, but it's the beginning. It's our intro to videos we did about the Proclaimer's book.
Oh, yeah.
The masterpiece of propaganda.
Yeah, the very intro to the Proclaimers series, which is now well over 100 videos.
Their ability to doctor the picture by selection.
By, selectivity, extreme selectivity about their own history.
Yeah.
See you next time.